Joining us now on AM 1300 The Zone, the head coach of fighting Texas Aggie football, Mike Sherman joined us. How are you, Coach?
You play that theme song every night?
We play that all the time on this station, I must say. That is our theme.
We appreciate that
That's
Coach Station.
That's a theme song for our show, actually. A lot of people don't know that.
That's the opening song.
There you go.
Well, Coach, first, talk about your team coming into this year. Obviously, it's a hopeful season for you guys because it's been a down few years for Aggie football, and I think now it's starting to build into something that you guys can work with. Who are some of the guys you have playing for you this year that you feel can take your team to that next level?
Well, I think not only the guys that are there, but the guys who were recruited. We're going to have to play with a fair amount of younger players, and they come in and make for competitive practices and hopefully rosters. So we're counting on some young guys coming in and helping us. Who that is, I can't exactly say right now. I hope they all help us in some capacity. But I think it starts at quarterback position from our current team. Gerard Johnson has to be a force on the field, and I believe he will. I think he's learned from last year. He did some amazing things. But we turned the ball over way too many times last year. And part of that was him running around for his life. He didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to throw the ball to our guys, so sometimes we threw it to the wrong guy. But I think he's improved that this past spring. Ryan Tannehill as well will play the quarterback position, a young man who stepped in and played a lot of receiver for us last year. But I think he'll be competitive at that position as well. And I told him when I moved him to receiver that I would give him a chance again to play quarterback. So we'll give it about 10 days in camp. Honest competition, and Gerard, knows he's going to have some competition, but I think that's a good thing at that position as well.
Coach Mike Sherman, head coach for the Texas A&M Aggies, joining us on the Sports Buffet. Coach Sherman, you brought up Ryan Tannehill, and I want to talk about this kid. What kind of conundrum does it put you in as a coach to have a guy this talented at wide receiver and yet also being so vital to the team as a backup quarterback? I think he had listed as backup punter at one point. I mean, this kid's very talented. Freshman receiving records, 55 catches last year. What do you expect for him to bring to the team this year? Because he can provide you with so many resources as a player.
Well, I think it's a great observation. Conundrum is a great word for that. I was trying to figure out my old SAT prep book.
I looked it up, Coach. I got it right here on my computer screen, Coach.
But no, you get points for that one. I was a former English teacher. But anyways, I'll be honest with you. I've struggled with that myself. I've put myself in the situation, and it's 3rd and 10, and we need a first down, and he's standing there on the sidelines besides me if that's the way it ends up. And what do you do with Ryan Tannehill? He can go in there and make a first down for you, but you can't afford not to have a backup quarterback. Last year, our backup quarterback started 90% of our ball games. So it's important that we make good decisions there. And I'm not ready to say exactly how I'm going to get myself out of that conundrum, but I'm very aware that I'm in one.
We're joined by Texas A&M head coach Mike Sherman. Coach, we appreciate you joining us and spending your time. Last year when we sit here and we interviewed you, you really didn't know what to expect. Give us a rundown of what you went through in your first year and what you expect to see as the head football coach of the Aggie Nation in your second year.
Well, I think anytime you take a job, there's always optimism that you're going to get it turned around, and right now, and obviously that wasn't the case last year. There was a transition period that we had to go through with our players from a schematic standpoint, also just from how we wanted to do things. It doesn't mean how they did them before wasn't right, but it's just we do things a little different than anybody else, and so that's just the way it is, and them getting comfortable with that. And take nothing away from our senior class, I think that was a struggle for a lot of those guys. When a new group comes in, you didn't recruit these guys, they have 1 year left to play, and I'm asking them to do things maybe that they hadn't been asked to do at different times. So I think it was a struggle, and I think some of the seniors will say it was a struggle with me in particular. I'm very specific on how I want to run the team, and so I think through the transition, I think we gained some things. I think when you look at the record, certainly disappointing, but as a head coach, I look at the other parts of the program that are working. I see our guys academically doing very well, doing things on campus, taking care of their business, working hard in the weight room, had a great off season. The chemistry in the locker room is high, and those are things I didn't quite feel real good about at this point. I may have led you to believe that last year right now, wishful thinking, but it wasn't where it is right now, and I'm happy about that. And I think that's the thing that I was looking forward this off season.
A&M is sort of in the middle of the of some recruiting
You
juggernauts.
guys are being awfully nice to me today. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
no. We like
I do
that.
listen to the show once in a while, so I know what goes on.
We hope not, Coach. We hope not.
Sort of in the middle of a juggernaut triangle there with Oklahoma and LSU and Texas kind of surrounding College Station. And when the program's been down for a few years, how tough does that make recruiting for you guys when you're going after the same kids that those three schools are going after, and they've had so much success recently?
Well, there's no doubt that trio of schools is very successful and have done a great job and great head coaches and programs. But at the same time, A&M sells itself. Regardless of what our record was last year, I felt good about our recruiting. I feel good about upcoming recruiting. A&M's a very unique school, and it's the right school for a lot of kids. And when they get on campus, there's a feeling they get that's real special. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen at other places, but it does happen at our place, and we really play off of that. And there's certain kids that are just attracted to Texas A&M. And I felt when I took this job, someone asked me, why would you leave the NFL for college football? And I said, well, I didn't leave the NFL for college football. I left it for Texas A&M because I believe in the program, I believe in the school and what it stands for and the type of kids we can get. Remember, I was an assistant coach there. And when we were a heck of a lot better than we are right now in the nation, and I always felt like you can recruit players to Texas A&M. We're right in the center of the Texaplex, so to speak. Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. There's 22 million people. There's enough players for Texas, for Oklahoma, for A&M to be successful. Then it comes down to coaching your players to be better than the other guys' players.
Hey, Coach Mike Sherman joining us, head coach for Texas A&M Aggies, joining us on the Sports Buffet. I like the way you put that, Coach. You didn't leave the NFL for college football. You left it for A&M. Story, tradition. And speaking of story traditions, I remember the wrecking crew when I was being recruited by the A&M Aggies. You guys made a lot of changes on defense this year to try to attempt to put the best players on the field. Leading tackler Matt Featherston, he's moving down. He's going to put his hand in the dirt, rush the quarterback, and so will Von Miller. Tell us about those changes. Those are vital changes. These are both guys who used to stand up. You're going to put those guys in the dirt, put some younger guys on the field. What changes on defense have you guys made, and what are you planning on getting out of those changes?
Well, last year we played our linebackers. We didn't play with a linebacker that played linebacker in high school. And I always think a linebacker and a running back, if they didn't play in high school, it's hard to create those guys. It's such an instinctive position. And I didn't feel like we had the instincts at linebacker necessarily, so in our starting three guys. And so we really made a push with the youth coming into our team. We recruited 5 linebackers. We're going to really put them on the field and see what they can do. And so the idea of moving Matt down, he had been a down guy before. I think he's benefited from that. Von Miller really is playing a position we created called the jack position. In the state of Texas, there's a lot of linebackers, and you're going to be able to recruit linebackers. It's hard to find the big defensive linemen these days. A lot of those guys are moving over to offense. And so what I want to do is put more speed on the field in the Big 12. You have all these guys throwing screens, bubbles, draws, jailbreaks, and all this stuff that you got to turn and chase. And it's really those interior people that stop all of that stuff, either rushing the quarterback or turn and run and catch him from behind, forcing a turnover. So I want to get more speed on the field. So Von Miller will be part of our defense in a very big way. He plays this jack position where he lines up. He can rush the quarterback, but he can also be an off position, play linebacker. And so it gives him variety of where he's rushing to quarterback. So, it's just another thing. Football's still football, and the players win the games and making plays. But I think this scheme will highlight our players a little bit better.
Texas A&M head coach Mike Sherman joining us now. 2-part question. One, your thoughts on a guy that you've coached and very familiar with, Brett Favre, coming back to the Minnesota Vikings. In addition to that, Big 12 versus the SEC. How much of that gap has the Big 12 made on the SEC?
Well, the first question, and the one I'm asked almost every day about Brett Favre. This is what I look. I just talked to Buzz Cook, his agent, 2 days ago, and we were just talking about Brett and things and whatnot. And I really believe this. Everybody is so enamored by Brett Favre for so many years because of the passion and love he had for the game of football and how he played. Now that he still wants to have that passion and love for the game, and someone's willing to pay him to do it, I find it comical that people criticize that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It doesn't have anything to do with money. He just loves to play. So everything that everybody thought was so great about Brett, they're now criticizing him for. And, I always said that he'll stop playing when his arm falls off his shoulder. And I've said that a long time. I remember one time we were in a ball game about at the first quarter, and I said, are you going to retire today, or are you going to wait till the end of the season? And he said, I think I'll finish the game anyway. So, but he's a great competitor. He loves to play. And